Hi, my name is Justin Myrick, and I am the CEO and co-owner of Justin Myrick Media.
So, Justin, tell us, how is it that you came to virtual school in the first place, if you can remember back that far?
Wow. So what brought us to virtual schooling was I was getting into acting as a kid. I was probably I think maybe 9 or 10 at the time, and so I had an agent, and so we were going on auditions, and I had auditioned for The Lion King on Broadway about 3 times. So I was going to be young Simba. On Broadway, which is always exciting. And we're going, but we're in South Carolina, and so the Broadway auditions are in New York. And so we're there for 3 or 4 days at a time. And of course, if you're in the traditional school system, you can really only miss, I think, maybe like 7 before you just fail out of the grade due to poor attendance, not even due to your actual school performance. So so we were doing that. We were doing, showcases all over the place in Tampa and LA and everything like that. So we were like, all right, we have to pull him out. And I believe I was in 6th grade, 5th or 6th grade at the time. Before, we really sat down as a family and thought, okay, what are other education options? Because my mom is a college professor. And she's all but dissertation. So, education for her is pretty much, paramount. If you're her child, you are going to finish school, you're going to get a grade, you're going to get your education. So, but they also knew that there was this dream that I had, and they were trying to support me in that. So they were thinking, all right, how can we make sure he gets his education, but still pursues this to the best of our ability? And so that's kind of what led us to, Connections Academy and an online charter school. And it was an adjustment at first, but we soon realized it really did make all the difference in letting me go to New York because after that, I got an agent in New York who was the agent to the Jonas Brothers and Christina Ricci and a lot of really big names, really really great agency. And so that's when I was doing, or when I started really doing TV shows, movies off Broadway, national voiceovers for things like McDonald's, Pop-Tarts, Discover the Forest. That's when I was in, TV commercials for Pop-Tarts and stuff like that, and doing ads for Toys R Us and modeling for Nordstrom and Lord and Taylor and Lord and Taylor. So that's really when my career picked off, or really picked up when after we made the transition to, and I guess like an online charter school. And that's when I was doing like Nickelodeon and things like that. So it really did allow me to really still get a great education while also building up my career. Because from that, we were able to start Seeks the Talent Agency with the connections we made during that time. And so now not only do we, have me, but we also have, I believe, about 150 actors who are currently booking. They just did, and I'm still acting actually. I just did a movie with Jonathan Majors, so I'm excited about that. Yes, ma'am, and I get to see do my own stunts. So, yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Yes, ma'am. Just last month, I worked with the explosive department and a stunt coordinator. So I get to, yes, ma'am, when the movie comes out, when that scene hits, that is me, not CGI, but that is me doing my own stunts. So still acting, still doing it, and I did a KFC commercial last year as well. So still acting, and then we've got a bunch of other people on our roster who have booked things like The Mule with Clint Eastwood. One of our actresses had a scene directly with him. There's Netflix, Apple TV, Hulu Plus, FX. I mean, and to think that all of that really was based off of when we were working with me and made the switch to a non-traditional education path. I do think it is interesting just to see the impact and where it can take you, just by making a decision of, okay, let's pull him out of school, out of, I guess, traditional school. And really, we've never looked back, if I'm being honest. So,
So, in addition to the flexibility of scheduling and everything, what was it about virtual school that worked best for you as a learner in terms of how you learn? And did you find yourself looking for that in your higher education as well?
I will say it was a bit of an adjustment going from a traditional schooling path, where everything is like given to you, it's assigned. You've kind of got someone overlooking you throughout the class, throughout every classroom you're in. I will say, so to kind of be there by yourself where, it is on you to make sure you get your stuff done. It's on you to manage your time wisely. It's on you to, make sure you do all of your research, in certain ways, it kind of did grow me up like that, to where I was like, okay, I have to stay on top of this stuff, because my parents aren't going to do it for me. Um, like my parents aren't going to do it for me, but yet I still have all of these auditions, where it's like, oh, I've got to shoot today. So it did teach me balance, I think, at an early age. And I think that's the same type of balance that I would go on to use during my college years. If there was something that I wanted to stay sharp with, or, it's like, okay, I've got to learn this, but I've also got to make sure I balance this, this, and this too. So I do think that is one thing it taught me that I really relied on later on, but also even today as I'm running my business, there's lots of things going on, where you're balancing multiple contracts and jobs and you can't let
Mm,
one fall. You've got to realize, all right, I'm doing this, but then I also got to, pivot to this and this and this. So I do think that
mm.
is one thing it taught me that I've been using. And the thing is, sometimes you don't even realize you're using these things until you take a step back and think, oh, okay, so I've really been just using this like year after, and it's working, it's working. And I do think it helped me, and I kind of can't imagine, working anywhere else. And other people ask me, "Oh, how do you balance it all?" Like, "Oh, I see you do this and you do this and you do this." So, um, the fact that other people notice it,
Right.
other people say, "Oh, this is someone who can balance it." And I think one thing that did help me was seeing my parents because my parents were good at that too. When you've got a mom who's, she's military captain, she's, college professor, she's running her own business. So you kind of do have that modeled for you in a sense. You're like, okay, it can be done. It's like, all right, well, let me, apply it to like my own education and, my own business. So I do think seeing it in the home also helped me kind of figure it out a little bit
Right.
as to how to make certain things work. Yes, ma'am.
So talk a little bit about your business now, because you talked about your continuing to act and do, voiceover work and so on as talent. But you're doing a lot more than that. Talk a little bit about Justin Myrick Media and what that is, and any other ways that you can think of that your virtual school background kind of helped prepare you for that.
I will say, so Justin Myrick Media, it
Mm.
is a videography, post-production, and AI business as well. So recently I secured a contract with OpenAI and Meta. So we are currently under contract with those two companies. Yes, ma'am. And so I was very, very excited because, it's kind of unbelievable to think that in like your second year of owning a business, you can have a contract with those two huge companies. So we are excited to be doing work for them and with them. And I also have, I believe in December, I got my AI certification from Harvard. Outside of AI, because we recently pivoted to AI, but we still do videography work. So there is Film Pool, which is a film company or a film post-production company from Los Angeles, California. They're setting up roots here in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and they need a VisFX artist. So I've been doing work with them. There is Salt Run Entertainment, which is a really, really great company I'm excited to have been working with. And again, they're another film production company, but they're co-owned by Charles Randolph Wright, who he's directed Greenleaf, Brilliant Minds, Delilah. So to have, these two powerhouses come in and they're at the ground floor. I did a video for Salt Run Entertainment's ribbon cutting back in September. That's how fresh they're
Wow.
here. And
Mm.
this weekend we were actually at the press conference for Film Pool's announcement, and it's co-owned by MLB player Kenny Lofton. So,
Ah.
yes, ma'am. So that was this weekend. So, this is all fresh, new things that,
Mm.
that we're getting in on. But we're excited about it, because sometimes I'm like, all right, I'm doing videography, and it's like, all right, I'm doing AI, but to still be doing visual effects with my business as well. That's really, really great that I'm excited about. So, of course, there's Film Pool, there's Salt Run. Um, I believe last time we talked, I had just did a contract for Urban League of the Upstate. So as a on a multi-day film festival with them. So a lot has been going on between
Yeah.
AI and doing work for all of these different film studios that are setting up here. I'm really excited about it.
Mhm.
And of course there's also my own digital products that I'm working on. I don't want to tell too much, but my own digital products that I've got in development as well. And yes, ma'am, it's been a lot. It's been a lot.
Yeah, you're like the ultimate multitasker. I mean, it really is amazing to me. Do they use the term multi-hyphenate anymore? I'm not sure that they do, but I mean, it's
They
like
still
you're
do. I've heard of it from time to time.
that's remarkable. And yeah, the last time we talked, you had also just gotten your drone license, if I'm not mistaken. So
Yes, ma'am.
are you still using that as part of the mix of shooting and stuff that you're doing, or has the shift to AI really kind of eclipsed an awful lot of that?
Recently I would say AI has probably taken up probably 50% of my business now. So, the shift to AI is huge. And it was something that, for me, I wasn't really thinking of it at first, but then when I was talking with my business partner, aka mom, she was saying, you really do have AI experience. And I said, really? And she was like, well, you've done machine learning, in college. And I was like, oh. And she's like, you've done, two Python programming classes. You've done machine learning in college. She was like, that is, the basis of
Yep.
artificial intelligence. And so once she, kind of like made me come to my senses with that, I was like, huh, all right, I guess I do have experience with AI. And so
Yeah,
from there, we really were just like, all right, let's really get into it because by that point, Cat was already out of the bag, and we were like, well, it's here, it's not really going anywhere.
that's
And so
right. Yeah,
we were like, all right, let's try and really like diversify. But I do think that comes back into, the I think what I developed during my time in Connections Academy, where it was like, all right, there's always that exploration of like, all right, what else is new? What else is going on? What is I guess the next new thing, or what else is like the hot new thing? So we've really been I think I really developed that during my time at Connections Academy. I think it was always probably there, which is how I
yeah,
got into acting, but also being like, oh, I don't just want to act. I want to make sure that I can like sing and dance too. So I think during my time at Connections Academy, I really was able to like explore that fully. And I think that still translate over into some of what into rather a lot of what I'm doing today, to go from vis effects artist to, I guess, videographer and editor to, AI innovator, and now to kind of, because I feel like lately I've been switching between all of those, it's not
mm,
like it's just, oh, all right, I'm going down one thing, but when you have a client saying, hey, could you come out and, videotape this, or hey, could you, come and edit this, or hey, I've got this shot for this movie, could you come and do this shot for this film? So you're still feeling like you're firing on all cylinders, if that makes
really,
sense. You're not just
right,
being like, all right, this is the thing now. It's like, all right, this is, the new thing, but we still have these other things too.
right, right,
Um, so I
right.
definitely think
Mm,
that that has helped me in my
mm,
business. And I enjoy it too. I think that's another
yeah,
thing. Like when you enjoy something, you
right.
don't really think of it as work. You're just kind of having fun with what you do. So I think that's another thing, another aspect of it as well.
Awesome. All right. Anything I didn't ask you about that you want to make sure that I include?
I talked about the OpenAI contract, the Meta contract. I talked about the work for the film production companies.
It's a lot, dude.
It doesn't feel like it's a lot. Sometimes it doesn't feel like it's a lot. Until I like list everything off, and I was like, oh, wow, okay, that is a lot.
A
I
lot
guess
in a
because I'm
good
just so
way.
used.
A lot in a good way, not in a bad way, but in a good way, So
Yes, ma'am. I guess it's because I'm so like used to it at this point.
yeah.
Um, and I've seen like when I'm kind of like networking with people and I'm telling them what they do and they're like, oh, what do you do this? I'm like, yeah, I do that. And they're like, really? Like there's always that skepticism of like,
Yeah.
you don't really. And I was like, no, like I really do. I guess it's like a lot of people they think, oh, you only do one thing.
Right, right,
And I think
right,
a lot of people only think you do one thing when in reality you can do, multiple things.
right.
Yeah, so I think that's one thing that I also learned at Connections Academy was you can do, one thing. You can't just go to a traditional school, but you can also, get your education and to balance, your
Yeah,
acting career too.
yeah,
I think that's
yeah,
one thing a lot of people don't really think about I guess when they think about, oh, I got this dream, but I also have to go to school, because I've seen
right.
a lot of people where they say, oh, I quit acting so I could, get my
Go to
degree.
college or whatever. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
They feel like there's always this, I have to, put off one to do the other. When in reality, you can do both of them.
I love it. I love it. All right. Thank you so much, Justin. Talk to you
No
soon.
problem, Miss Mickey. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.